Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Life Talk Show. My name is Joseph Kimani, and on my side here is Zakile Kumalo. Without further ado, I would just like to have a quick recap of what we discussed last week. So, Kumalo, could you kindly please tell us what we discussed
Thank
last
you
week?
so much, Joseph, for the opportunity, and welcome again to everyone who have joined us to the show. Today, before we can have a recap, we want to have a look of what we'll be addressing today, where we'll be talking about to say the ego is the enemy. But on our recap, we are having a review or to say what we talk about is to say what is right is what works. Actually, what we discussed about 3 points. The first point was the first principle to say where you are is where your ego has led you. Then the second part was to say it doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white, but what is right is what works. Then the other part was to say you mustn't fool yourself, because you are the easiest person. The easiest person to fool is yourself.
Hey. Thank
Yes,
you for
man.
such a quick summary of those quite heavy points.
Yes.
So those ones were quite really packed.
Yeah, but we can have maybe further address of what we'll be talking about today.
Yes, so in fact, today we have yet another interesting topic, and
Yes.
it goes by the ego is the enemy.
Yes, and it is
Yes.
having I think one of the first is the first platic.
So you'll find that the ego,
painful platic story.
yeah. So you'll find that we had this author who, had a series of ups and downs.
Yes, Ryan Holiday.
Yes, Ryan Holiday, the author of the book.
Yes.
So his ego led him to at first he was elevated, and then eventually there was a total collapse. Could you please kindly tell us his story so that we
Yes, the issue of Ryan Holiday, who is also the writer of the book to say the ego is the enemy. The first painful story, the platic story went through was to say at 19, he quit college. He went to start a business, or he went to business. But as he was in business, things were working well. He was invented into different companies. He had to be a CEO in several companies. But after all, things didn't go well.
Yeah. So that is, he was 19, successful at a very early age.
Yeah, at 21, I guess he started to write a book.
An author at
first,
21.
Yeah, he was an author at 21.
And I also heard that his book inspired a TV show about his life. Because he was so successful, he had to be featured in a documentary.
Yeah, I guess he was because of money, man. He was a very successful young man. He was a very ambitious young man. He had gone through good hands, and that built the issue of the ego. That's what we want to talk about.
Okay, we've seen how successful he was. So, what happened and what turned his life or fortunes around?
Okay, what during his time?
Yes.
Where he was successful businessman. Then he started to be in a downfall where these companies he was invented in, they start to collapse. He also, whatever he started to sink. During the time, it was a hard time. But his ego meant him recognize that he knew in his mind, the position where he was, to say actually he was a successful businessman. Even when the ego has taken place in his downfall, he discovered 3 major key things that he discovered that were so
what did he discover?
Interesting. He's saying first, humble is our aspiration. 2 is to say gracious is our ambition. 3, resilience is our failure.
Yeah, resilient to failure.
Yes, resilient to failure. Those are the things that, as much as he was in the process of his downfall at an age of 25.
So he was also learning.
Yes. That's why he also wrote the first year in his process of his downfall. He wrote the book to say the ego is the enemy.
So we see that these events they actually made him wiser. So his misfortune did not go to waste because he discovered one or two things that are of value to us all. Yes. So what I'm realizing from just that story you shared is that ego is the enemy to ambition, enemy to success, and also enemy to resilience to failure. Yes. So what can you tell us about uh, these three things? What can you do to acquire these three things?
Okay, he was going through a phase, what I've realized, a painful phase.
Yes.
Of just imagine you're a successful CEO in one of maybe the pageant company in terms
It is
of
called American Parallel.
Yes. He was very successful, and just imagine the media is all around you, man. Now things start to sink. Even he came to the point whereby now the last thing I discovered he did was to send an email. So he went while he was in his way to his room. He wanted to send it. At least I have got one opportunity to send an email.
So
But
this was like an opportunity to salvage his
for rescue.
collapsing empire.
Yeah, for his rescue.
And
But
then what's happened? Because
his wife was not working.
Yeah, so why the wife was not working?
Yeah.
So how did he react to that?
Uh,
Because
the-
also ego is about reaction. I think what I have also noted is that how you react to circumstances also, it's also about ego.
Yes, that's why now we had to understand to say the outside environment mustn't determine who you are.
Yeah.
You have to feed the inside man. So that you will be able to come to the point whereby you express or you feed the environment what you are made of. Because
Yes.
about ego, it's supposed to be something from within. It's not supposed to be a brand that you portray an image that you are not.
So you're saying that confidence is gained internally.
Yes.
Is something that is acquired.
Actually, it's about
something that
process.
like a process whereby you learn.
You have to go through the process.
Yes.
And not be like a microwave generation.
Ah.
Yeah. Whereby
Yeah, actually, interesting point. You find most people have actually confused, what is success and
failure.
Yeah, and just what it is to do well.
Okay, to sum up the painful story.
Yes.
His time, what happened in those three key points. It's just that he's telling us that the way you address issues, it has to come to the point whereby what you do has not to be in what you know in your mind.
Yes. So first of all, I think I realize it's a series of decisions.
Yes.
And you have to make the very right decisions. Yeah. But also, what do you cultivate in your mind that helps you to make the right decisions?
One is to be resilient to failure, man. If you are resilient to failure, you might fail now and again, but because you've got what you feed inside you,
Yes.
It gives the energy to keep on going, now and again, and you are resilient to failure.
Yeah. So it's what you feed in your mind, because also he had last week we talked about an inner citadel of wisdom or knowledge.
Yeah.
So if you have that inner reserve, also it can get you through situations.
Of course.
Yes.
Maybe to cut you short, there's also another part that I also find it a bit interesting, the three talk. There's also this Californian governor, with which I feel we should talk about today.
Yeah, I think his name was Upton Sinclair.
Yeah.
Yes. So tell us about this governor, because also he had one very interesting experience.
Yeah,
and
he's also a funny character that I discovered. Just imagine someone.
Yeah, he's kind of quite a funny character.
He's running for a governor, Californian governor. He also wrote his book.
Yeah, he had a book. I think his book was called Governor of California, How I Overcame Poverty.
Yes. Just imagine that one is part of your campaign.
Yeah, so confident. So what I'm seeing here, is it confidence or ego? Because
It's
this
ego,
guy is
man.
vying, and yet he's not even campaigned. And
Just
before even
imagine.
the campaign begins, the guy has already published a book
Uh,
as the governor.
uh,
And he was actually talking about a certain policy that he was working on, and it was something like something that had already happened.
of course, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah,
So
because
how did he conduct his campaign in light of this book and everything that was going on?
okay, in his campaign, he used his book as a way to win the public votes. You know,
Okay, okay.
actually, it was not what the people. It's just something written on paper. Then you're trying to bring it into your reality. You
Yeah.
know,
So
that
this is
was his
something that
downfall.
existed in his mind, and then he went forward to write a book.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
did he campaign actually? Did he campaign? Because I think I realized at some point the observers said that he lost interest in the campaign, so he ended up not campaigning.
I guess his approach was one of his failure. To say as much as maybe he wanted to campaign
Yes.
and win, because at the end they're talking about to say he lost his vote by 500,000, of
Yeah, which
of
is
which
quite a big margin.
of which I guess in his campaign it was an issue. Kind of those observers, they saw his strategy was a failure, you know, in terms of winning those public votes, you know, of which what is most interesting and what we are learning in this kind of the governor of California is just that despite of his campaign forum and whatsoever, his book was one of the selling time, you know.
Yeah, it was one of the best sellers.
It was one of the best sellers, you know, which as much despite of his ego to go for campaign and whatsoever, but what he had an ambition for it was to be a writer than to be a politician.
Yeah. So also here's another case of uh, failure turned success.
Yeah, yeah.
But that doesn't happen often because we find that sometimes our ego won't lead us to be successful writers, like in the case of this governor. So, what can you tell us about what lesson is it that you're learning from this experience in today's lives? Like in present day, what
Okay,
can you take away from this?
what he learned.
Yeah, to today, like what lesson is it that you can learn from his experience?
Okay, in the
Because today I find there is a lot of expression. People are expressing their opinions on
yes, yes,
Facebook, on
yes.
Twitter, Insta,
It's
Tumblr,
an interesting
and all
point.
these social media platforms.
Okay,
So, what can we learn from this his experience?
okay. In his experience, he's saying, talk, 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 which
Yeah,
means those who know, they
do
do
not
not
speak.
talk, they do not speak. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But those who speak is those who do not know. You know, in
Isn't
relate.
that profound? Because yeah, you'll find sometimes we have the loudest of people. Yeah, but most of the time you find, in fact, I'll quote one doctor who's called Dr. Lumumba. He once said that uh, in countries you find leaders who have no ideas, but then also you'll find that there are a lot of people who are not in a leadership position, but have got very good ideas.
Of course, of course, of
Yeah.
course.
So yeah. So what is it that we learn from this Facebook and Twitter and social media?
In terms of that, guy, it's just that temptations that exist to everyone. You know? Some people are hyper to talk, yet they are resilient to action. You know, so like in this concept of Facebook, we find that it's asking you to say what is on your mind,
Yes.
and Twitter, I guess there's something else that also always comes up.
Or what's happening?
Yeah, it's happening, and this it creates a brand outside, and it creates, it's just like an issue whereby you fast forward your future. You know, you've got too much perceived that you can even mean. You know, just imagine in Facebook you put pictures even that are even out of your reality because you want to maintain a certain kind of a lifestyle and a standard that in reality it will never exist. So this is what it has led to the issue of the ego.
Yes.
To say, in terms of the way.
And when somebody portrays that image of success, does it mean that in reality they're working as hard towards that success, or they're living it, the success that they display on platforms?
I guess they are living, to live in that aspect, to say I'm living in this level.
Yeah,
Because there's
because also there is this aspect of comfort. Somebody is comforting themselves externally while they've not fed enough themselves enough, like on the inside, so that they can have a reserve to share.
Remember, I talked about the issue of microwave generation. Microwave generation doesn't want to go through a process. Microwave generation doesn't want to go through pain. Microwave generation doesn't want quick things and quick lifestyle and quick forums, and it feeds the ego that we are talking about today. Yet
So,
in terms of life,
so all these things, they feed an ego.
Yeah, like I guess there is also another writer that we discovered. This lady who had in terms of
she was a blogger, a Goka blogger. So her name was Emily Gold, and what she did is she was actually in the process of writing a book.
Okay. And it takes 2 years.
Yeah, before she could complete writing this book, she started publicizing herself, creating a public brand or a public image that
was away from what
that
she was working on.
could relate to. So instead of focusing on the writing of the book, she was focusing on now this PR, and so she ended spending most of the time on Facebook, on Tumblr, on Twitter. Well, in reality, she should have been writing. So what she was doing, she was justifying what she was doing. While in reality, she was just wasting time.
Okay.
Which was lost because that period of 2 years, the book could have already been finished, and now advertising and the marketing.
Yes. Actually, what I want to summarize in terms of that is just that we talk about ego, that it is humble to our aspiration, gracious to our ambition, and resilient to failure. Of which these are the things, as you are saying to her, she never had that, in terms of his writing of a book.
Yes.
Because he portray a certain image in terms of what delaying what he was supposed to work on, of which this is what normally works in our environment. Because with ego, man, it also goes to what you know. What you know, it's always affecting you not to be resilient to change.
So, for example, right now we're facing the coronavirus, and you'll find that so many people have been affected in so many different ways.
Yes.
So, in such a case, for example, where somebody has lost a job, what can you say about ego?
Okay. We talk about another book to say in terms of the cheese has been moved.
Yes, in our previous episodes.
Yes, in one of the previous episodes.
Yes.
To say the cheese has been moved. So when the cheese is no longer there, what you have to do is to not allow that to be your downfall. What you have to do is to sniff and scare into action.
Yes, so we need
seek
to
for other opportunities
into action.
Yes. Because the system, the way it's training us, is to say, go to school, study, get a job, start your family, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
But now, what if the job is no longer there? What do you do? Because now you start to prove yourself that I deserve the position. You start to prove yourself to say, I'm the right person who's supposed to be here.
Yep. So you start justifying.
You want to retaliate.
Yeah, you start justifying and why you should be having certain things and why you deserve some certain things.
Inside you.
Yeah. But also
there are streams of waters. you know.
Yes.
Yeah, so you want to outpour what is inside you as much as possible, you know.
Yeah.
When
So
you
what
chase,
you're saying is that in such situations, what you should be doing is not complaining and not beating yourself up because situations are not going according to your plan.
true.
So you shouldn't let like an ego blind you from seeing other opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah, because as you're saying, there's so many streams
Yes.
inside.
Actually, we are saying
That
humble. We are saying humble yourself, because humble is what? It's our aspiration.
yes,
You know,
yeah,
gracious is our ambition. Have
yes,
ambition. You know,
yeah.
be resilient to failure. Do not allow your failure to be your downfall.
I,
Man,
I mean, just coming to think of that. I mean, that is very sound advice.
and mind you, that one cannot work when you spend more time just listening to news
Yeah.
to say what
So
is
it needs
happening.
something we call action. It needs action.
It needs your quality time, you know. It needs time whereby you work more on yourself and what you believe in. You know, in our previous episode, we spoke about vision and purpose. We
Yes.
spoke about conviction and courage. Those things will never come to action if ever you do not work on your ego, you know, which is what we are addressing today.
And there is a saying that says, um, ego, the easiest person to fool
Is yourself.
is yourself.
You know, whatever you portray outside there and is not in your reality, and you've got that stigma, this is what you know to say, because there's a difference between ego and confidence, man. You know, confidence is what it comes within.
Yes, it comes from
Ego,
within.
ego is what the environment feeds you and your expectation that you're supposed to meet.
Yeah,
You know,
and somebody actually in the book it said that ego is stolen and is like is a self-anointed sword.
yeah, you have a swagger. Yes, man. Actually, maybe in terms of summary, this is what we want to address today. To say, people, let us analyze ourselves in this time of Corona. You know,
Yep. So it's a time for self-introspection.
yes. Have a deep within self-introspection. You know, have a quality time working on what you believe in than the news that you're being fed on. You know, because just imagine, there's another philosopher in our previous episode that you talked about a guy who was supposed to save his prison sentence in prison, but what normally happened, he went with the confidence to say whatever his downfall, being now in prison, has not to let his division down, you know, because
Yes.
Corona
And
might
this was
sometimes be a vision,
the case of
might be
Nelson Mandela. For
yeah.
27 years, he kept his vision alive.
Yeah, maybe one would be Nelson Mandela, but he's also one of a baseball player who also had to go to serve a certain sentence after he is a treason that he has to take. But his confidence never stopped him to write in a book in prison.
Yes, and I also remember another one, a baseball player who hurt himself, and he was like the longest baseball player on a winning streak.
Yeah.
And then I think he broke an ankle, and then he had to do a regenerative surgery.
Oh.
And then at some point he was told that the surgery he wouldn't ever play again.
I'll play again. Yeah.
Yeah, but he lived to play to the age of 40.
Oh yeah.
He was one of the oldest people in the league. So that did not stop him from,
his downfall never stopped him to work.
It never stopped him
to
from
work on
working.
it and his recovery.
Yes,
You know,
because whatever situation you're facing, there is always a way out. Yeah, so there is always a way out of an obstacle.
Yes.
Yeah, and also as we wind up, we would like just to show you some of the books that we've been looking at.
That's a surprise to me.
Yes, so this was a book that we looked at in one of our episodes. It was called Who Moved My Cheese?
My cheese.
Yes, and then there was also another one here. The obstacle is the way.
So it's Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes,
Okay.
obstacle is the way. Then we also now looking at this one.
But it's like it's supposed to be like this.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
How is it like that? Anyways, the ego is the enemy.
Yeah,
Whatsoever
ego is
it's
the enemy.
supposed to appear.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Joseph, for that. What can you say maybe as we sum up today's show?
So as we sum up, I think one thing I'd like to urge our viewers is that they should cultivate virtue, and this begins by understanding, and it's fulfilled by courage. Yes. So each and every one of us has to ask ourselves, what do you want to be? Who do I want to be?
Let the environment outside you not determine who you are.
Yes, and also what part will I take in that?
Of course.
Yeah, so I have a part to play as an individual.
And work on your ego, man.
Yeah.
Because
so yeah, I need to be humble.
Yeah.
In my aspirations.
Yes.
I need to be gracious in my ambition.
Yeah.
And I also need to be resilient to failure.
Yeah.
So those 3 points.
They sum up everything.
Yeah, they just summarize everything.
Thank you so much for having
something else. That
nothing much for me is to plea. Guys, please subscribe because we can be able to showcase of more of our episodes if ever you show our love by subscribing on YouTube and also liking our page, on Facebook. That's what I can say. I guess
yes.
everything has been covered. And
yeah,
also
there is just one sentence that to whatever you aspire, the ego is your enemy.
Yeah.
So always remember that.
Yeah, because I guess even vision drivers, as we are showcasing, other people might be thinking, these guys are just whiling away time. Yeah. And some people are missing the opportunity of the time because of ego, man. I think it's also one of the issues to say. Sometimes when something new is coming up on the forum, because of what you know in terms of that person, you don't want to tap in and learn whatever that you're being fed on the time. So your ego has let you down.
Yeah, because where you are is where
your ego has led
you.
Yeah. Thank you so much also for having me, and I guess everyone will have a great week.
Yeah,
Thank you.